friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Maryann and I'm a homeschool mom of 2 kids. Today in this video, I'm going to be sharing some tips on how to save money while planning your homeschool year. This is the time of year I know that we're all getting into, thinking about what we're going to use for next year, and it can add up. And a lot of people think that homeschool has to be expensive, but it really, really does not. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to keep your next homeschool year affordable, but also really, really great. So with these tips, I'm going to be covering things to do with curriculum, field trips, and even homeschool supplies. So I have a little bit of everything in here for you. And I will also mention, if you don't know already, I run a homeschool blog as well. And my blog is geared towards homeschool moms, just to give resources and encouragement. So I will link that in the description below and you can check that out. I'm going to do my best to not be a chatty Cathy here because no one likes a chatty Cathy. I feel kind of bad for, who's Cathy? Whoever the original Cathy was that expression was named after, I feel kind of bad for her because now there's a generation of people who just refer to her as chatty. So I feel kind of bad for her. Anyways, I'm done. Enough of that. So the very first tip that I have for you is to look for free curriculum. And I know that this might sound impossible, but trust me, it isn't. There's a lot of really, really popular, well-known curriculum companies that offer entire courses for free. You just have to download and print them yourself. I've done this myself with courses from The Good and the Beautiful. I've done it many times actually. And the way to make it really money-saving, because I know you're probably thinking, okay, well, if it's free to download, I still have to use all the paper and ink is not cheap for a printer. But here's how you can keep it really, really cheap. Only print a few lessons at a time, because you don't always know if a curriculum is going to work for your kid or if you're going to like it as the mom, if it's going to cover all the things that you want it to cover. My dog is over here. Hello. Hello. So the best way to avoid wasting all your paper and all your ink is download it for free, print out the first few lessons, get your kid going on it and see how it's working out. If you like it, if your child is responding well, print out a few more lessons. Do the same thing. Don't ever go through and print out the entire curriculum, have it bound, because that is going to cost quite a bit of money. So go a few lessons at a time, maybe 3 or 4, and just see how it goes. And then if you love it and if you know it's something you're going to finish, then go ahead and print it all out if you want to, or just keep going a few lessons at a time. The second tip I will give you is to keep your eye out for small or new curriculum companies. Recently, I came across a very small, privately owned curriculum company. It's just a family that runs this. And I came across them on Instagram. And they were offering one of their courses. It was all about homesteading. They were offering it for 90% off, 90% off. And it came with tons, I would say hundreds of videos and lesson plans and printables and just everything all about homesteading. So raising animals, gardening, preserving, everything. And I got it for $25. Seriously, $25. That is nothing when it comes to homeschool curriculum. So don't be afraid to check out these smaller companies. They will often provide really good deals so that they can promote themselves. And it's a great way for you to access really awesome material for a fraction of the cost. I just gotta have a sip of my coffee before we continue. The third money-saving tip I will give you, and this, just hear me out on this, it might sound a little bit daunting, create your own curriculum. Now, this does not mean that you have to write a textbook and have it published. Not at all. It just means that you don't always need a prefab curriculum to use with your children in your homeschool. You can just pull things in from various different resources. You can use your local library. You could find some free printables online, or even just a family member or friend who maybe has a little bit of expertise in an area that you're discussing with your kids. Have them over and have them talk with your kids. You can do all sorts of things in your homeschool without actually having a set curriculum. My dog is walking around while I film this, so if you can hear her tag jingling in the background, that's what that is. Anyway, don't be afraid to do that. You do not always need to have something already done up for you. You can pull from so many different places. They can all be free, and you can provide an amazing education for your kids. The fourth tip is a really fun one, and it's one that I'm actually hoping to do myself really soon, and it's to organize a homeschool swap. So guaranteed you know other homeschoolers. The homeschooling community is amazing, and everybody wants to help everybody else. So contact some local homeschoolers in your area and have everybody get together, maybe invite them to your house, or you could meet at the library or something like that. Bring the curriculum they have, because everybody would have some old curriculum. Maybe they have only done little bits of it, or maybe they never did any of it and they just want to get rid of it. Have everybody bring some stuff that's like in good shape, obviously, and something that's able to be used again, and do a swap. That way nobody is spending money, but everybody benefits. So you bring, and in order to get something, there needs to be rules here. A swap works in the sense that if you want something, you need to bring something. You can't just go with nothing and then take. You have to bring something yourself, something that's worth swapping. And it could be curriculum, it could be books, it could be anything like that. Teacher's manuals or manipulatives or anything like that, homeschool related. A homeschool swap is an awesome way to get your hands on some new to you things, and then to give what you have to some of your friends and help them out as well. Okay, the next tip has to do with your school supplies. So as homeschoolers, we can sometimes get carried away with all of the things, you know, the manipulatives, the cool pens and pencils. I love a good stationery store. There's something about it. You walk in and it just, the smell of stationery just makes my heart happy. So I can get a little carried away sometimes when I want to go shopping for supplies. But here's how not to do that. You've got to be careful how much you spend, because when your kids are homeschooled, they do not need the amount of stuff that a child in public school would need. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, oftentimes the school supply lists that are given in public school, half of those items aren't even used. I can remember when I was in public school, some of the items that we had to get, we never even used them in the year. So it was a waste of money. And reason number two is when you're homeschooled, you know, your kids aren't shoving their supplies in a backpack and taking it on a bus and then throwing it in a locker where everything's going to get bent and broken and lost. That doesn't happen. You're home. Usually the supplies are on a shelf or in a drawer or somewhere accessible. And yes, things get damaged and whatnot, but not to the same extent that they would if they're going to public school. So here's my advice. At the end of every school year, or, you know, close to the end of every school year, go through all of your school supplies. I'm talking pencils, erasers, rulers, you know, lined paper, binders, all of it. Just go through it all. See what you have that you can reuse for the next year. We use the same binders every year. We might get a new one here and there if we need it, but we just take out the papers that were in it from one year and use it for the next, because binders in our home stay perfectly intact. So just take inventory of everything you have and make a little list of the things you might need. And it could be things as simple as you need some more staples or, you know, a new pencil sharpener. Make a little list, because right when you're finished your homeschool year is usually when you want to get rid of stuff, you want to declutter. You're not yet into that back to school, everything looks shiny and magical mindset. You want to buy it all, right? You're not in that mindset yet. When you finish a school year, you're kind of just like, you know, done, and you want to purge. That is the perfect time to go through your school supplies. So by doing that, you are going to have a realistic list of what you need. And that way, when it comes time to go get those things, you have your list. You can put your blinders on and not get distracted by all the shiny, magical, sparkly things. Just get what you need, and it will save you so much money. The last tip that I'm going to give you has to do with field trips. Now, we love a good field trip in our homeschool. It's so much fun. It's a change of pace, social time. We get to see friends. I get to talk to other homeschool moms. Field trips are the best, but they can be expensive. And it's not always just, you know, expensive like admission fees or things like that, although that can be the case. But sometimes it's just gas money to go to all these places, or food. Maybe there's a need for meals while you're out and you're thinking, oh, I just don't want to spend the money on food while we're out, or I don't want to spend the gas money to get there. And maybe there is high admission fees or entry fees or whatever it is, it can add up. And for a lot of us, that can be kind of challenging. So here are my tips for having affordable yet awesome field trip options for your homeschool. Tip number one to do with field trips is do something local, okay? Get people who live around you and do something local. You could call your local fire department or police station and ask for a tour. They are more than happy to accommodate that. You can go there with a group of people from your homeschool group, have an awesome morning or afternoon, and then pack a picnic and go to a playground, have lunch, let the kids play. That's a fantastic field trip. Option number two, or tip number two, would be a tourist of your own city. So wherever you live, just find some friends, pack a lunch. That's always key. Pack your food. Pack your food and drinks. That will save you money right off the top. So pack a lunch and just set out. If you live in the city, you don't even need to take a car. You could just walk around on foot for the day. Go into shops you've never been to before and say to the clerk, say, listen, we're on a homeschool adventure today. What's a cool place to go? And they might recommend something to you that you maybe didn't even know existed. So walk around your town, take in the sights, pretend you're a tourist. I know that there are a lot of things where I live. Because I live here, I don't take the time to go and see it. But tourists do all the time. So if you put yourself in that tourist perspective, you can really see and learn a lot about where you live and what's around you. So that's a great option as well. Another thing you can do to make a field trip affordable is, this is more so if you have older kids, maybe middle school, high school, ask if one of your kids can job shadow somebody in your community. That is a great learning experience for them. Maybe you can just drop them off at their work, or if they live close, they could pick them up in the morning and take your child with them to work. But that can be such an educational experience. I can remember when I was in high school, I job shadowed my hairstylist because that's what I am. I'm actually a master hairstylist. I like to say I'm a retired hairstylist turned homeschool homesteader, which is a whole story in and of itself. But I always knew that hairstyling was what I wanted to do. So I used to job shadow my hairstylist. I did it a few times, and it taught me a lot about the industry. And that is a great way for your homeschoolers to get out there, get some experience with a career that might be interesting to them, and learn a whole lot. The last little thing that you could do for a fun field trip is, if you are in a more rural setting like we are, find some local farms around and ask if they wouldn't mind you stopping by for the day. Maybe they could show your kids, how they run things, what their different practices are there. Depending on what type of a farm, they could show you their operation and really educate your kids on what it's like to be a farmer, because farmers are incredible people and we need them really badly. So for your children to learn the realities of what farming is like and the opportunities within that would be so beneficial. And again, if you live somewhere rural, I bet you there's a farmer close by that you would not have to drive really far to get to, and who would be thrilled to have your kids come around. Maybe you can even offer to have you and your kids help weed their garden as a thank you. I mean, I know that if I had a group of kids come here and say, can we weed your garden? I would be like, yes, absolutely. I'll give you anything you want. Just go weed my garden. So offer to do something in return. Farmers are busy people. They don't always have a lot of free time. Offer to do something, or maybe, bake them something, drop a meal off to them afterwards as a thank you. But that is another great way that you can do a field trip without dealing with, admission fees and all the things that can come into play at certain places. So those are my tips. Those are all the ways to save money on your homeschool year. But more than anything, just keep it simple. When you're planning your next homeschool year, whatever grade your kids are in, don't overthink it, okay? The basic things that your child needs are math, language arts. The rest is kind of gravy, in my opinion. Now, obviously, as you get into the high school years, you have to focus on making sure your child has what they need for their high school transcripts. Yes, and that is important. But even then, keep that simple. figure out what they need and make those things their priorities and just ditch the extra stuff. You don't need to do the exploding volcanoes and, all the things. You don't need to do that stuff. Focus on what's important for the year that you're in and keep it simple. All right, guys, well, that's it. That's what I got for you today. I hope that these tips will help you save money on your homeschool planning. And if you like this video, click like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.